Have you ever thought about how one single decision, one choice, could bring a whole civilization to its knees? Well, today we're digging into the story of one of mythology's most famous, or maybe infamous, figures, Paris, the Prince of Troy. So, how on earth does a prince who was raised as a simple shepherd end up in the middle of a divine argument that lights the fuse for a legendary war? Let's get into it. This is really the heart of it all, isn't it? It's a classic story about fate versus free will, about choosing love over duty, and, well, how a deeply personal decision can have absolutely world-shattering consequences. So to really get it, we have to go right back to the beginning. You see, Paris's story doesn't kick off with a choice he makes, but with a curse. Before he was even born, his entire life was overshadowed by a terrifying prophecy that seemed to seal his fate from day one. I mean, just imagine this. Your mother, the Queen of Troy, has a nightmare that she gives birth not to a baby, but to a flaming torch that sets the entire city ablaze. And then the royal seer confirms her worst fears. This child will be the downfall of everything they know. So, from his very first birth, Paris isn't a beloved prince, he's a walking catastrophe. So what do? To try and save Troy, his parents, the king and queen, order him to be killed. But the man sent to do the job, he just can't go through with it. Instead, he leaves the baby on Mount Ida, hoping nature will take its course. But fate, or the gods, or something, had other plans. In a wild twist, he's saved by a she-bear, of all things. Then, he's found and secretly raised by that very same herdsman. So the one act meant to prevent the prophecy actually ended up being the first step to making it come true. And here we get our first big dose of irony. The boy who was supposed to destroy his people, he grows up to be a local hero. He's so good at protecting his flocks and fellow shepherds from rustlers and predators that he earns the name Alexander, which literally means protector of men. On top of that, he develops this reputation for being an incredibly fair and honest judge in local disputes. Remember that part. It's going to be important. And that reputation for being a fair judge, well, it doesn't just get him noticed by mortals, it gets him noticed by the gods. And it's about to land him in the middle of a divine argument that will change the course of history forever. Okay, so picture this. There's a huge wedding up on Mount Olympus. But Eris, the goddess of strife and discord, was, surprise, surprise, left off the guest list. So, feeling petty, she decides to crash the party in her own special way. She rolls a solid gold apple into the banquet, and on it is written just one simple phrase, "For the most beautiful." She knew exactly what she was doing. Immediately, it's chaos. Three of the most powerful goddesses, Hera, the queen of the gods, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love, all lunge for it. Zeus, the king of the gods, wants absolutely nothing to do with this decision. Smart man. So he punts. He decides to give the choice to the mortal man known for his incredible fairness, Paris. So the question goes to him. And now it goes to you. If you were in his shoes, what would you pick? And this is not an easy choice. I mean, look at these bribes. They are not messing around. Hera offers him total political power. He'd be king of all of Europe and Asia. Athena offers him legendary skill in battle and unmatched wisdom. And then there's Aphrodite. She offers him the love of the single most beautiful mortal woman on earth. Power, wisdom, or love. And Paris, this young man, who has known nothing but a simple life, doesn't pick the empire or the glory. He picks love. He gives that golden apple to Aphrodite. And right there, in that one instant, he guarantees her unwavering support and earns the undying hatred of the two other most powerful goddesses on Olympus. So, Paris gets his prize. He was promised the most beautiful woman in the world, but, as we're about to see, a divine promise like that comes with a very, very steep price. Because here's the thing, the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen, yeah, she wasn't exactly single. She was Helen of Sparta. And she was already married to a very powerful man, King Menelaus. This wasn't just a small problem, this was a geopolitical ticking time bomb. And this table really lays out the two sides of the coin. On one hand, Paris gets the love of Helen. On the other, he breaks a sacred oath. You see, before Helen married Menelaus, all of her powerful suitors had sworn a pact to defend her marriage no matter who she chose. So when Paris sails to Sparta and takes her back to Troy, he's not just ticking off one king. He's effectively declaring war on every major king in Greece. And they made good on their promise. A massive fleet, A legendary armada of 1,000 ships carrying the greatest warriors of the age set sail for the shores of Troy. This isn't just about getting one woman back anymore. It's about honor, a broken pact, and wounded pride on a national scale. The Trojan War has begun.
So, the man who started it all is now in the middle of a brutal, decade-long war. How does he handle it? Well, let's just say Paris's reputation as a warrior is complicated, to put it mildly.
This burn from the Greek hero Diomedes pretty much sums up how his enemies saw him. The Greeks prized face-to-face combat, spears, swords, raw courage. Paris, though, was an archer. He preferred to fight from a distance. To guys like Diomedes, that wasn't strategy. That was pure cowardice. And honestly, the stories don't help his case. His own brother Hector, the greatest hero of Troy, chews him out on the battlefield for hiding. He agrees to a one-on-one duel with Menelaus to end the war, but when he starts losing badly, Aphrodite has to magically spirit him away to save him. He's often painted as a guy who'd rather be in the palace with Helen than on the battlefield fighting for his city. But, and this is a huge but, for all the accusations of cowardice, it's Paris, the archer, who pulls off the single most legendary shot of the entire war. With a bit of divine guidance from the god Apollo, he fires the arrow that hits the mighty Achilles in his one weak spot, his heel. He kills the unkillable warrior. The so-called coward took down a living legend. Even with that incredible feat, though, Paris can't outrun his destiny. He can't escape that prophecy that was spoken before he even had a name. His story, and the story of Troy, begins its final tragic descent. In a perfect, terrible irony, Paris is mortally wounded by an arrow himself. Desperate and dying, he stumbles back to Mount Ida and finds Oenone, the nymph he loved and abandoned long before he ever met Helen. He begs her to use her magic to heal him, but the bitterness is too deep, and she refuses. So Paris dies, alone, on the very same mountain where his life was spared as a baby. And soon after he dies, Troy falls. Think about it. The one action meant to stop the prophecy, leaving him on the mountain, is what allowed him to be raised as a shepherd. That's why the gods chose him to judge their contest. That's why he chose Aphrodite and went for Helen. Everything led back to the beginning. The flaming torch his mother dreamed of had finally burned his city to the ground. Which leaves us with the big question. What was he? Was he a selfish villain who sacrificed his home for a woman? Was he a naive fool who just couldn't see the consequences of his actions? Or was he never really in control at all, just a pawn being moved around a cosmic chessboard by bickering gods and an unavoidable fate? What do you think?